Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you. You put all the pressure on my shoulders to stand between me and your lovely free evening in the beautiful city of Rome. So it's quite dangerous to give the floor to a politician at the end. So speaking is what we are learned and what we are doing for. So I first of all would thank you to organize that speed feeding with all the problems we have in the sector we spoke about. And Mr. Schellenhuber made it quite clear that mankind lost their place in the paradise. And having us all sitting in the Vatican, I may remind you on the old story that human mankind lost its place in the paradise by taking a fruit from a tree. So, and in the morning we discussed how we should construct our buildings in the future, and timber played a key role. Maybe we won't come back to the old paradise, but we can protect human mankind from a disaster. So I thank you for your introduction of the possibilities we have if we build in another way. And also you showed us how the potentials are building with biomasses. And that is also a big theory made by my friend John Schellenhuber, that we can, that gray elephant that is so slow moving, our building sector, keep a little push and get him running, and that if you have a carbon sink, and that we have houses that are efficient and that produce renewables more than they are used to heat them, then that big elephant that is now a problem can solve the problems of our future. So, but you told us, Mr. Peters, that's not only a question about this, what kind of material are we building in the future, it's also a big issue what we are building and how it looked like. And that was also a topic that raised Mr. Carey in the morning when he spoke about the Arbor Polaris, sorry. It's not only which kind of material we use, but over justice of space, what is social justice in buildings. We spoke about the colonial tradition of our towns in the world. And so we have to discuss what our way of living makes with the society, but also with the environment. So we are pretty used to discuss what's the way of our food production made with the environment. And many young people deny to eat meat, and they don't. They suffer. They say it's more of quantity and quality in their life. And many people think about how they travel, if they take an airplane, if they have a private car, which kind of it. So it's a huge sensitive about that two options of making one private life. But there's rarely a discussion of what makes the way I live with the climate. So the people who can afford it have huge amounts of consumption of living space. Most of that living space, they don't live. They store some consumption products. They are rarely used one time in the year. So I would like to invite you to make such a discussion. When I was half a year before taking office, I said, okay, we have G7 presidency in Germany. I would like to have a meeting with my colleagues from the G7 states. And my young ministry had a little shock, but they said, okay, good idea. I said, yes, but because there's so much transition power in the cities, it's good to have an exchange. What I didn't know is that I invented the track on G7 urban planning, because it's really the first time that we met in that round in that topic. And to broaden our perspective, I also invited my colleague from the UN Habitat, because I think we should not only has that as a theme for the rich, and we saw the figures, it's much more as even a big problem and a challenge in the development countries. So I think what we really, as a positive thing, have today learned by the remarks of Mr. Ingalls, that everything we need is right invented. So we don't speak about some spaceships not accessible for us. So it's everything clear. We have no problem with knowledge. And as Mr. West told us, it's quite calculated. So we can just do it. But how can we make that way happen? And so I really thank Klaus Mintrop for his input, and the poor guy who has to do what he has invented in the regulation mindset. Because I'm really convinced that we have so smart architects, that we have that movement in the young generation of urban planners, but we need a smart set of regulation rules. And for that, we need creative bureaucracy, and we need creative politicians. And in Germany, we have plans, for example, to have a quality seal for sustainable buildings. So the old brand made in Germany will be for the building sector a new brand that means sustainable buildings, and we have different initiatives to connect our national founding and on that seal. And the second one is about database driven. It's really a technical thing, but we offer a database for all who want to build with new materials, that they can calculate how many CO2 is taken by building in that way or the other. So to come to an end, I really would like to thank all of you to sharing your knowledge with us, and I'm really convinced that we need an international dialogue about with which kind of material we build, but in what kind of style we build our towns, because I think we should think about sharing economy also in the kind of building quarters that are mixed, like we learned from Barcelona. So that is not the rich one who own a huge property and are really lonely. That's the second problem by doing so. But that we all say we can build in a smarter way the towns of our future. And the presidency of Germany of the G7 will hopefully be starting of a tradition of international discussion about that topics on the G7 level. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for these thoughts, Minister. I see that my colleague Ramanathan is back on. Ram, would you like to have any reflections at this point?
No, I think I agree with what the Minister was telling us about the challenges and the issues. I don't have a particular question, Joachim. If the members of the audience have, kindly let them.
Let me not open up the discussion at this stage, but let me thank the Minister. Minister, that you hinted at engaging G7, engaging United Nations is great news. Pushing for suitable regulations, which we had from Mr. Mintrop, is great news. And pushing on the database and the related, I would connect it to AI and analytical tools modeling, is great news. We had today quite a bit, let me leave you with this thought, quite a bit of emphasis on Africa, and that is very good. I visited two of the advanced mathematics institutes, the Ames centers. There's one in South Africa, in Rwanda. I was at the one in Rwanda and in Dakar, where youngsters, teenagers are trained in mathematics. This is the unique global language. And it is so encouraging to see these next Einsteins from Africa and elsewhere in the world engaging in this language. Architecture, I understand, has to manage and master that. It's part of the beauty. So that is my positive remark. Mr. Klara showed us, as many of you, wonderful pictures. There was this picture of the Baobab Tree, which is towering over us. When you feel small when you stand under it. I need to add, however, that the Baobab Tree is massively dying in Africa. It stores water, and it no longer, because of climate stress, fulfills these functions properly. It is attacked by disease, and combined, these two factors lead to the dying of baobab trees massively in southern Africa, but also in West Africa. So let's think of these mammoths of trees and get motivated for climate action on mitigation and adaptation, so that the next generations can utilize and admire those creatures of plants. I wish you a good evening. Thank you.